Hello, so as Rob said, my name's Rhian Davies and not Rhian Jones as it says on your flyer. I think you just picked the most Welsh name you could find and stick it on there. I work in the digital team at City of York Council, and that's within our ICT team. And one of the things we're currently working on is exploring digital exclusion and inclusion within York, how widespread it is and the different ways of tackling the issue within the city. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what we already know about digital inclusion and exclusion within the city and what York already has to tackle it and what is planned in the future. Our plans and other people's plans to take things forward in terms of research and potential projects, particularly in terms of Town Hall today. So as you can see, I don't know if many of you are familiar with our York Explore libraries, but they are now independent of the council and run as their own social enterprises, and they do some fantastic work across the city. Possibly one of York's biggest assets, I think, in tackling digital exclusion. And as you can see, they offer extensive services for all types of people. Workshops for those who want to learn something specific like Facebook or blogging, how to use the internet, the basics of turning on a computer. They target people in their own communities, so they go out to supermarkets, community halls like this one, and make sure that people can access that information and support that they might need. And they even can help you decide whether you want to buy a tablet, whether you want to buy a computer, depending on your needs and what you want to use the internet or computer for. So the training work they do really is quite fantastic. So in terms of Town Hall's Explore Library, as you can see, they offer many sessions. I've detailed some up there for all types of learners, and they offer a varied timetable of specific courses. So we've got up there Explore Digital Care, which is for local caregivers who might need it to access their patients or the person they support, medical details, might need to order prescriptions, stuff like that. Getting started with computers, obviously that's what it says on the tin. And again, getting started with those tablets and e-readers. All those sessions are free: Windows 8, Skype, Twitter, family history, so people want to find out their ancestors, where they came from, that kind of thing. Facebook again. In 6 months, Town Hall Explore Library has supported about 350 learners, or digital learners, which is about 10% of the entire people that they've supported in the city. I think about currently 3,500 people have accessed the Explore Library and asked for that help and support with the computers. So they are really making a sizable dent in the digital exclusion in the city, I think. There are plans in place for York, and that includes the Town Hall area, to enhance the digital infrastructure that is in place. Gigabit City will see the rollout of connections of up to 1 gigabyte from next summer. The implementation work is going on at the moment, so that's the street works, that kind of thing, putting fibre in. And we are beginning to enable our own free Wi-Fi in community centres, public spaces, so like this one, and Town Hall, this community centre will be Wi-Fi'd up with its own Wi-Fi, so obviously that improves the centre's ability to provide digitally. So one of the things we've been working on as well is what does digital exclusion look like in York? The national average of households connected to the internet is 80%. But York is only at 75%, so that is quite a stark difference. It's only 5%, but I think that makes a real difference. That's according to Ofcom. And a report done by our own Citizens Advice Bureau, which are based in the council offices, showed quite a few things, really, a couple of important things, so that 70% of people interviewed over 65 are not using the internet at all, which is a huge number. 53% of disabled people who responded don't use the internet, which is a problem, isn't it? 39% don't have an email address, and like John said before, if you don't have an email address, you can't do a lot of things. You can't apply for jobs, you can't, again, get your prescriptions online, you can't do anything online. And 2 in 3 respondents said that without help they would not be able to apply for their benefits online, and obviously in terms of the universal credit discussion, that is a huge issue. So we know that people are excluded, but why? The most common reasons are affordability, lack of access and a lack of skills. So is it one of those? Is it all 3 of those? A combination? And that's what we want to find out. So what's the plan? Firstly, we want to explore in depth what's going on in York, why people are excluded, where do these people live if they are excluded, are there microcosms where a lot of people are excluded, and this will hopefully show the extent of digital exclusion in the city, and whether it's concentrated or whether it's sporadic. We've recently commissioned a digital exploitation strategy by some independent commissioners, which will help us to exploit that gigabit city infrastructure that's going in, exploit the brilliant digital things that are going on in the city. And one of the things we want them to do is to come up with relevant and doable projects that we can do in York, and maybe Town Hall. That will complement the computer train and the computer skills stuff that is already going on in York. So we don't want to replicate everything that's going on. We know there's stuff going on. Thirdly, we want to work with our partners that exist in the city. So Anna, we want to keep talking to Anna and the steering group. We want to talk to the community itself and find out what we can all do as a group, really. So we want it to come from the community upwards. We don't want to impose projects. We don't want to tell everyone what to do, but we want to find out what's happening and what can be done about it. So I'm going to grab Steve up now, who's my colleague in the digital team, and if you've got any questions or suggestions about digital exclusion or digital inclusion in York, then feel free. Does anyone have any questions?
I heard a statistic last week that said there were 9 million UK citizens who didn't have access to the internet.
Yeah.
And I thought, from this event, what should we do about that? And then I wondered what proportion were under the age of 5 and over the age of, let's say, 89 now. So do we know those figures? When we hear that 30% aren't connected, is that geographically or is it an age thing or something? Do you know that?
Well, that's one of the things. Is that survey has been done by Citizens Advice Bureau, so that's obviously gathered from the people they've actually talked to, people who come in and access those services. And what the survey work we want to carry out is finding out exactly what you've just asked: is who is it, what are their ages? Is it primarily an older generation thing? Is it a children thing? Is it people can't get onto their computers to do their homework and stuff like that? So that's exactly what we want to find out, because that level of information we don't currently have it. So yeah.
We saw from Rob's questions this morning, and those are ONS figures, that you can see what the difference is between young people and more mature people. We know from Ofcom, recognised national survey, 25% of the households aren't connected to the internet in York. Worse than the national situation, which is 80%, but those figures are distorted by a high proportion in London and the South East, where connections are even greater. But even those figures, the stats and the stats and the stats, because actually 25% of households aren't connected. That doesn't mean to say people can't have access to the internet, because they can use the tablet or whatever, if they've got one, in the local library. So we need to dig beneath the surface. And we also kind of need to find out what the situation is like in Town Hall vis-a-vis the rest of York. So we perceive there's a particular problem here, but we've got to put the evidence base together to quantify it and then work with the community, particularly through Anna, to address it.
One gets a sense that there's a kind of corporate strategic vision with this. Is it a director for the chief executive or leader, or how is it what's the driver for it?
The driver is from the leader of the council, James Alexander, and the driver is twofold. So, looking back at national statistics, 2 years ago, York, in terms of connectivity, no matter lots of different measures you can use, wasn't well connected. So if you're looking at our economy and businesses, what job opportunities, and that's the basis for people improving their incomes, York wasn't doing great. Lots of other accounts in terms of the economy, but not great in terms of digital connectivity. So James, as leader of the council, said, that's a weakness in York, we've got to address it. So our vision is to be the best connected city in the UK by 2017. But that recognises there's an opportunity there, which we're going for, but actually we want to see it as an opportunity for everybody. So the leader of the council is very clear, we want to be the best connected city in the UK, but we don't want people left behind. And that's why we're particularly interested in digital inclusion, to make sure people aren't digitally excluded. Is that?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
So you just mentioned the difference between bringing down government money for connectivity and using how quickly you're able to find out the network. But then the difference between that and trying to organise community free Wi-Fi, just in terms of funding and the potential difficulties we've had. Because on the one hand, we know it's available for business, super connectivity, but it's been really tricky to try and get community free Wi-Fi.
Right.
Can you just
There's
speak to that?
I think I understand your question. There's lots of issues there. Like every local authority, difficult financial times, so we try and get the private sector to invest as much as possible. So when Rhian talked about Gigabit City, and there's a joint venture of City Fibre, Talk and Sky, putting fibre connections throughout urban York, that's fantastic, that's great, and that can be achieved because that's the private sector doing it. There's things we can do as a council to help connectivity, so putting free Wi-Fi into the library, and this building, by the end of March next year, we have free Wi-Fi throughout this building. We can do that. That'd be fast, free Wi-Fi. There's a middle area. If you want to do things in the community, it's harder for the council to get involved in the infrastructure bit because of European Union state aid rules. So if we went and put connectivity, free Wi-Fi throughout the community area, technically a fantastic solution, and that allows, and with training and skills, everybody to get online and make good use and, your words, have fun with the internet. That's fantastic. But some of the telecom providers are breathing down our necks and saying, actually, we're distorting the market. I know it sounds bureaucratic jargon, but actually, we're doing the job that the private sector should be doing, and the European Union state aid rules do not allow that to happen. So we have to find a middle way through that, and actually I think you've got an opportunity through the big local funding, you've got an opportunity, and I think it's about bringing together, or trying to identify, first of all, the different ingredients you need to tackle digital inclusion. What do we need to do by doing lots of courses, but are they right? How do we make them more focused? In terms of affordability, is it the monthly cost to the internet, or is it the cost of tablets? Or is it just the sort of inexperience, the risk that people have of sort of using that equipment? So it's trying to say, ideally, what are the key ingredients that we need to bring together to make it work in Town Hall? And then we can have a really good think about how to make it happen. So that's kind of that'll always be my starting point. What do we need? Don't for now worry too much about the resources and the legislation. So we think about the ideal, and then we think about those constraints and how to get over them. That would always be the way I would approach it. Kind of a bit of an idealist way, but there we go.
Okay. Other than going to CBS and getting information about their clients, how are you talking to people in Town Hall? How are you reaching out to them? Where are you reaching out?
Well, I think there's two answers to that. We haven't done it yet. We want to do some survey work, first of all, to get our evidence base. We have a system of ward councillors who are the main communication vehicle. We do things in terms of, for those who've got internet, access to the internet, we do our Your Voice, the newsletter that goes to all households throughout York. But really, if you're going to do an initiative in Town Hall, we really believe it's got to be Town Hall's initiative. So therefore, we want to work with you, which is partly what this event is about is today. And if we were to come along and say, this is what you need in Tanghall, and foist it on you, now, pound to a penny is not going to work. But if it's people in community say, Tanghall saying, this is what we want, this is what we want to do, how can the council help us with this? How can Big Local help us with this? How can the CAB help us with this? Bring all the key people together to tackle some of those constraints, like the European Union rules and, resources and all those other issues, then we can do it. So really, I kind of throwing the question back at you and saying, hey, this event is a really good, worthwhile event. And what do we think the key ingredients are, and how can we as a council, because we want to tackle digital inclusion, because we've got that driver from the existing leader of the council, how do we make it happen? Okay. I know Anna did it, but...
And at the moment, I'm doing a piece of work at local level.
And you?
I'm doing some work at local level.
Oh, yeah.
And sort of just going out and interviewing people in Tanghall, Derwent,
Okay.
possibly about digital inclusion. And my question really was thinking that maybe there's a piece of joint of work.
Yeah, as soon as you said that, 100%, yeah. And Tanghall is, one of my, so what are you saying? Tanghall talking about doing a local survey anyway, so we need to put all that together really.
Any more questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.